from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up today on AgDay, growing potatoes, but it's not where you would think.
So he came down here and he thought it made sense to be down here growing potatoes.
What are the chances farmers could see another round of trade aid payments as Canadians head to the polls in an election that could have an impact on American ag?
So they put a pretty big stake in the ground, and that's what farmers want to hear.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado and the all-new Silverado HD, the strongest, most advanced family of Silverados ever.
Good morning, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Clinton is on assignment. An important vote is going on north of the border, one that could impact the future of the new US-Mexico-Canada agreement. Voters in Canada are holding national elections. The election will decide whether Liberal Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is allowed to remain in power.
My plan for Canadians? Lower the cost of living and leave more money in your pockets.
Nous avons démontré qu'il y a un moment de polarisation et de peur partout dans le monde en politique.
And if polls are any indicator, they show Trudeau is in a close race with his Conservative Party rival, Andrew Scheer. This is all happening during a time when the U.S. and Canada both have yet to ratify USMCA. Conservatives like Scheer are vocal about Trudeau.
We've seen a lot of decisions made by this government where they haven't been consulting stakeholders. They've been imposing changes, everything from signing away aspects of our system to Donald Trump during the NAFTA negotiations.
Some Canadian dairy farmers blaming Trudeau for bending to the United States when it comes to dairy and the agreement. Canadian reporters with RealAgriculture.com say farmers are telling them Trudeau is giving away too much of Canada's dairy market access, chipping away at its market share in multiple trade deals, including the potential USMCA.
And we have the Conservatives going out and say, hey, we will give away no more access to dairy markets in Canada. That is something they announced last week. So they put a pretty big stake in the ground, and that's what farmers want to hear.
However, Tobin believes no matter which candidate gets elected, USMCA will be ratified in Canada, but agriculture isn't receiving as much attention in this election. The focus is on healthcare, climate change, and the economy. Work to repair roads and bridges in Nebraska and Iowa is still underway following historic flooding in March. I got a first-hand look at how things are progressing in some of the hardest hit areas. It may be October, but reminders of March remain for farmers in the Midwest.
Back in March, it was horrible and depressing.
Farmers in southwest Iowa experiencing a historic flood earlier in the year due to excess water and levees breaching. But some areas still underwater, especially along Interstate 29.
I have some fields that I haven't been able to inspect yet as to see what damage happened from the flood.
The Iowa Department of Transportation saying some interstate ramps are still closed. These areas still flooded, even 20 miles north of Hamburg.
We have been able to get into some of these areas to make some repairs, but we do have some significant damage on a couple of the ramps, and those ramps will remain closed until the water recedes and we can get in there and do our inspection and make those repairs.
Iowa DOT saying 7 major roads are impacted by the flooding in the counties which border the Missouri River. But that number only includes the interstate and state highways. Crews are sometimes having to make repairs more than once due to even more flooding.
Unfortunately for us, we've had to close the roads like 3 or 4 different times in parts of western Iowa.
On the other side of the river, the Nebraska Department of Transportation saying 58 construction projects are complete out of 85, with 3 bridges still closed. Initially, it was 27. But again, these are only projects with the interstate and state highway system. Some farmers telling me they had to repair their own private roads.
You spent thousands on probably cleaning, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Rented a scraper to move dirt. You got to buy another bobcat so you have a way to move trees, grapple bucket to move trees.
Farmers hoping their repairs will hold and the reminders of March will soon be erased. China is continuing to buy U.S. pork. USDA reporting weekly export sales for pork are at a marketing year high thanks to China. Reporting on Friday, Mexico purchased 132,400 metric tons the previous week, and China purchased another 94,000 metric tons. It reports for 2020, net sales were primarily for China as well. Beijing buying 58,600 metric tons. China also buying more than 850,000 metric tons of soybeans. But the news for China isn't as good financially. The country's economic growth sank to new multi-decade lows in the latest quarter. That's as the trade war with Washington drags on. Growth in the world's second largest economy slipped to 6% in the 3 months ending in September. It was the weakest level since China started reporting data by quarters in 1993. And the slowdown in China, the world's biggest trader, has global repercussions. It is depressing demand for ag and other items from other countries. Prices of soybeans and iron have fallen, hitting Brazil, Australia, and other suppliers. African swine fever is also disrupting the country's pork supplies. It's estimated there's been a 69% surge in pork prices in China. The White House is continuing to say they expect President Trump to sign the Phase 1 trade agreement with China when he meets with the Chinese president at the APEC summit next month in Chile. But many producers are wondering if the new agreement will have an impact on another round of trade aid payments. ProFarmer reports its sources are signaling high odds that a second trade aid payment will come in November, followed by a third in January. It reports the payments will be made largely due to ongoing talks with China and the fact that even if there is an agreement, any deal would take time to put in place. USDA says so far $5.5 billion in payments have been made since the Farm Service Agency began issuing checks in August. New information about that explosion at a Cargill beef processing facility in Dodge City, Kansas. A company spokesperson says the plant will begin receiving cattle again later this week. Take a look at the damage. This picture shared by the Kansas City ATF, tweeting that investigators are working to determine the cause of the explosion that happened Wednesday. The company temporarily shutting down operations. In the interim, cattle were being sent to other Cargill facilities. A spokesman telling AgDay the company is busy preparing the damage while the processing side of the building remains running at full capacity. 2 workers were injured in the blast. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration's attempt to ease some rules on mining, drilling, and grazing across millions of acres in 7 states. The judge saying the changes adopted by the administration likely would cause further declines in populations of greater sage grouse. The judge's restraining order means government officials must fall back on previous rules adopted under President Obama. It affects public land in Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, California, and Oregon. What do your kids do when there's no school? Meteorologist Mike Hoffman shows us what one boy decided to do in today's Crop Comments.
Thanks, Betsy. There was no school for one boy in South Dakota, so what did he decide to do? Why, a little farming, of course. Lewis Nigg of Sisseton, South Dakota, sharing this picture. His mom says he was supposed to be helping her decorate for a party, but she says farming won. After all, she says, who wouldn't want to drive big equipment, move grain, and get dirty? Looks like a nice day there as well. I'll have more on your forecast coming up in just a little while.
Still ahead, China has been buying a lot of U.S. pork, but where's the market response? We have some analysis. And later, a historic potato farming family that's not in Idaho.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
The new Kansas City Fed Ag Finance Data Book says farm lending has slowed in the 3rd quarter of this year. That's after 9 consecutive quarters of year-over-year growth. The primary reason for the slowdown? A decline in average size farm operating loans. It says despite a slowdown, weaknesses in the sector persisted, and that's continuing to pressure farm cash flows and ag credit conditions. China has been buying a lot of U.S. pork recently, so why aren't the markets responding? Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan has more on this analysis from the road.
Thanks, Betsy. Here now with Arlen Suderman from the Kansas Speedway right outside of Kansas City. And Arlen, Friday, USDA confirmed it, a huge week for pork sales.
Yeah, it really was. All said and done, 351,000 metric tons. That's equal to about 1.2 times weekly slaughter. That's a big number. Now, in reality, I think that was probably a combination of several weeks worth of sales and maybe shipments as well. But it does show how we're ramping up into fourth quarter as expected. And I think we're going to see more of this, not just from China, but other customers trying to get ahead of the game before China takes all the pork.
And it was odd because it seemed like USDA acknowledged that they weren't sure if this was truly all the sales in 1 week or if some of those sales just had not been reported yet.
Yeah, and I think there's a sense in the market that this was a combination, and that's why those in the industry who were aware of that were probably selling it. But I don't want it interpreted by people out there that this was a negative, because this is a positive. We're going forward. We just had a lot of premium already built in.
So that's my next question. If it is a positive, then why did the markets not react that way?
Yeah, we estimate there was about $14 worth of export premium built into the market. We've been anticipating this for so long. We've built up, expanded the production. Now the export's finally coming. So we've got a little bit more buildup to do to fill that gap. But their upside potential is still significant there if China comes in as much as we think.
Yeah, and you told me last spring, you said, I think it'll be fourth quarter when we see China step up to the plate and buy. And here we are. Sounds like that's what's happening.
Exactly right. And what we're hearing from China is they're pushing to restock. 80 to 90% re-outbreak rate.
Well, 2 weeks ago, were you worried when you didn't see this number?
I was getting a little bit nervous, but the fourth quarter's here and so is the demand.
And hopefully it's just a start?
That's right.
All right, Arlen, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll have a check of weather right here on Ag Day.
Contact Arlen Suderman by email at arlen.suderman@intlfcstone.com. What do you call someone who does dozens of jobs? A farmer. At Pioneer, we're proud to work with generations of American farmers in the most complex and rewarding industry on earth. So from your friends at Pioneer, thank you, farmers.
Meteorologist Mike Hoffman is here. And Mike, let's talk about the southeast a little bit. There's a tropical storm, but some of those areas really needed some moisture.
Oh, this is going to help out at least some of those drought areas in the southeast, no question. Nestor formed as a tropical storm on Friday and moved toward the northeast. And that northeast movement took it right across the panhandle of Florida, parts of Georgia, and the Carolinas during the weekend. Now, this map doesn't actually show it because this goes from a week ago Saturday through this past Friday. We had that one storm system last weekend that went through the southern portions of Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, back into Louisiana. This one then cuts up at a little bit different angle, giving some additional rain to some areas that really do need it, because this area is still in a pretty severe drought in most of that area. And you can see when we zoom in, now again, this doesn't include Nestor's moisture, but it still puts down a lot of rain, shows a lot of rain, some areas 4 or 5 inches of rain over the course of this week, and that's really helpful for a lot of different places. And we also had that big storm move through the northeastern parts of the country, dump 4 to 5 inches of rain as well. Parts of eastern New York especially, and we had some pretty good moisture in the UP of Michigan, northern lower peninsula as well. Here's the jet stream. You can see the trough with a system moving right through the upper Midwest once again. By Wednesday, that trough's moving north. Another piece of energy dives into the northern Mississippi Valley by Friday. That kind of swings on through, and it looks like there's more energy right there diving into the northern plains as we head into next week. So basically, we are now in a pattern where we have a pretty good ridge off the west coast and troughs digging into the east. That means below normal temperatures for a good chunk of the country, especially between the mountain ranges there. Above normal northeast, South Florida, and the southwest. Precipitation this week above normal from the Gulf Coast all the way up to the Great Lakes. Below normal for the southwest and most of the west coast. 30-day outlook for temperatures. I'm going below normal for the northern north central states, basically above normal far east, south, and west. Precipitation over the next 30 days from the Great Lakes down into Texas will go above normal, below normal for the far northern plains. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Heading to Spearfish, South Dakota, first of all, chilly. Afternoon shower in a few spots, high temperature of 45. Tupelo, Mississippi, partly sunny, a spotty afternoon thunderstorm, high 75. And Burlington, Vermont, lots of sunshine, pleasant, high around 60.
Up Up next, Machinery Pete has the latest on a must-have item that's become very hot in the resale market.
Stay tuned, folks. Coming up, I'll tell you about a pair of super sharp New Holland tractors that sold recently in Ohio.
Ag Day, brought to you by Corvus Corn Herbicide from Bayer. Get an early season win against weeds with Corvus for end of season rewards.
Well, there are still some things that surprise Machinery Pete when it comes to used equipment sales. And he says the market is hot right now when it comes to one particular item.
Well, right around that 100 horsepower mark, give or take, that's been a hot spot in the used equipment market here the last couple of years. We got more proof of this from a recent farm auction by my good friends at Kiko Auctioneers up in Northeast Ohio. September 28th farm sale. They sold this 2011 New Holland T5070. Super sharp condition. This thing had 880 hours on it, sold with a loader, went for $55,000. Now that's the highest auction price I've ever seen on a T5070 with a loader. But again, the market's been pretty hot. The last 2 years, in fact, I've seen 4 T5070s with loaders sold at auction between $42,000 and $45,650. Now here's a picture of the one that went for $45,650. This was 2 years ago. This was the record high auction price before the one in Ohio just went for $55,000. Now this one was a 12 model, 1,528 hours with the loader, sold on an online auction by Purple Wave out of central Oklahoma. Now interestingly, that auction by Kiko Auctioneer September 28th also had a two-wheel drive New Holland T5070, and I just don't see many of these around, folks. And it was an 09 model, 1,025 hours, open station, went for $29,500. Very strong price there. So again, more proof here, around that 100 horsepower mark, good condition, red hot segment of the used market.
Potatoes, they aren't just for Idaho. We take you to another state where one family has grown them over 100 years.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
When you think of potatoes, which state do you think of? Probably Idaho, right? Well, one family has been growing potatoes for over 100 years, and almost 80 of those have been in the Lone Star State. Here's more from our friends at Texas Farm Bureau.
My favorite thing about potatoes, I guess just the pride of growing a crop that people are gonna use and enjoy. My grandparents came here in 1939, 1940. They got in the potato business in Idaho. Some people from Texas actually came to visit him. They were trying to get farmers to move down here, so he came down here and he thought it made sense to be down here growing potatoes. Some of the sons, they started potato sheds in different areas. My father was one of them.
Well, usually we start planting about the 1st of March. It takes about 70 to 80 days depending on the variety. Well, a russet potato is your basic baking potato. The lighter skins are the red varieties. The yellows are the really light skin. Cool nights, warm days, long days, sandy soil, all that plays a big role in growing a nice round shaped potato. The fact that we can cool off at night, the plant likes that, and then heat up during the day, it really loves that too. My dad came down with Frank Barrett in 1973. He came down to the Sand Hills, helped Frank Barrett break out the ground. And in 1986, I started working in the summertime. And as soon as I graduated, became a full-time employee. And I've been here ever since. My favorite thing about growing potatoes is seeing the quality, the end result. Quality is the #1 for us. Seeing a beautiful crop come out of our soil and to know that it's being shipped all over the United States is also a very proud moment.
This is where we bring all the potatoes to get them ready to go to retail. We wash them, grade them, size them, and put them in whatever packaging the order calls for. We ship out big tote bags that go to repackers that pack potatoes for retail. And we ship out individual cartons that go to a lot of food service, and then poly bags that go to retail, which are your grocery stores. We have to be really careful on how we handle the potatoes. It's not a processed potato, it's what they're going to put out on the shelves in the grocery store, and you want it to look good.
Millions of pounds of potatoes go through the shed. About 400,000 hundredweight is what we're going to produce every year.
After 32 years of growing potatoes, I'm really proud of going into a grocery store and seeing our product on the shelves and knowing that people are liking our product.
Well, that's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. For all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Have a great day.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Milk Business Conference. Don't miss this dairy business-focused event November 11th and 12th, 2019 in Las Vegas. Register today at milkbusinessconference.com.